Still no sign of the missing Massachusetts mom who's been missing since New Year's Day.
There was no indication of anything other than celebrating the new year.
The champagne box sits unopened on the counter, exactly where it was left. Outside, Cohasset is quiet, the way coastal towns are quiet in the dead of January. Colder than it looks, the ocean too far off to hear. Inside a stately house, 11 minutes from the water, 3 young boys are asleep. Their mother is not home. She has not been home in days, though the house doesn't show it. No overturned furniture, no sign of struggle, nothing a passing glance would flag. Just a note on top of the box, the handwriting looping and hopeful, dated hours before she vanished. A Ring camera watches the front door and records no one leaving through it. No rideshare driver remembers a pickup. No flight manifest carries her name. Her phone still pings from inside a 2-mile radius of the house she supposedly left before dawn. And somewhere in that house, on a laptop no one has checked yet, a search history is quietly recording every question a husband typed into Google in the hours after his wife disappeared. Questions that have nothing to do with finding her, and everything to do with a body. Her name is Ana Walshe, 39, born in Serbia. By early 2022, she was operations director at Tishman Speyer in Washington, D.C., dividing her life between the family's home in Cohasset, Massachusetts, and a second property near the capital. Colleagues described her the same way, again and again, magnetic, warm, endlessly interested in whoever she was talking to, the kind of person who lit up a room. She met her husband, Brian Walsh, in 2008, while working as a reservation manager at the Wheatley Hotel in Lenox. She was married then to Mark Nip, a marriage that ended in divorce in 2014. She married Brian the following year. 3 sons followed, the oldest 6, the youngest 2, and Ana became the family's primary earner. Brian had the resume of someone who should have matched her step for step. Carnegie Mellon, UMass Amherst, Northeastern, Harvard's Kennedy School. But by the time their boys were born, his path had bent. On New Year's Eve, the Walshes hosted a small dinner. A close friend, Jen Mutlu, remembers Brian cooking, the 4 toasting the year ahead, warm and ordinary and unremarkable. It is the last night anyone outside the family would see Ana alive. By Brian's account, Ana woke early on New Year's Day, kissed him goodbye, and told him to go back to sleep, same as any morning she left for a flight. This time, he says, a work emergency meant leaving for Washington 2 days ahead of her booked January 3rd flight. She usually called a car. This time, no rideshare or taxi company police contacted had record of a pickup. The Ring camera recorded no one leaving through the front door, and she never appeared on that January 3rd flight either. 3 days pass before anyone raises the alarm, and it isn't Brian who moves first. On January 4th, Ana's employer in Washington contacts police, worried she hasn't shown up to work. Brian files his own report the same hour, then starts calling her friends himself, leaving voicemails that sound almost apologetic, hoping someone, anyone, has heard from her. Sure, it's probably nothing. By January 5th, Cohasset police are asking the public for help locating a 39-year-old mother of 3. Detectives from 5 surrounding towns join in. For 2 days, the 6th and 7th, 20 state troopers, 3 K-9 units, and a helicopter comb a mile of woodland near the Walsh home. Divers search a stream. The pool is drained, nothing surfaces, and state police call off the search after the 2nd day. Then, the account Brian gave investigators starts to come apart. He'd described a full itinerary for New Year's Day, groceries around 3, an hour's drive to his mother's in Swampscott, a stop at Whole Foods, a stop at CVS, home by 8. Investigators drove the route and pulled hours of surveillance footage from both stores. Brian Walsh does not appear in a single frame. The man who couldn't account for his wife's whereabouts, couldn't account for his own. It's this discovery that gets him arrested first, charged not with Anna's disappearance directly, but with misleading the investigation. 8 days after Ana was last seen, investigators searched the family home, with Brian's consent at first. Officers comb the grounds. But it's the basement that changes everything. Bloodstains, and a knife, damaged and bloody, recovered from inside the house where 3 young boys had been sleeping the entire time. With Brian in custody, his cell phone, claimed missing since New Year's Eve, supposedly hidden by one of his children, found under a pillow only after his arrest, is finally examined. It places him at locations he never mentioned to police, some outside what his probation allowed. Anna's phone tells its own contradiction. It pings near the Cohasset house on both January 1st, when she supposedly left for the airport, and January 2nd, when she was already meant to be gone. In 2021, Brian pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges tied to a scheme selling expensive art under false pretenses, a case that cost him nearly everything but his freedom. And even that came with conditions. Awaiting sentencing, he lived under home confinement. To understand what investigators believe drove this, the story goes back to 2011 and South Korea, where Brian was staying with an old college friend from his Carnegie Mellon days. The friend's family owned a serious art collection, and Brian, well-spoken, comfortable with money, was trusted to sell a few pieces. One from the Shadows series and one from the $sign series, worth close to $250,000 combined. He never intended to hand over the proceeds. His diary from that period records the plan. This one is going to be bumpy. Over the next 5 years, he sold the same paintings again and again, consigning the Warhols to Christie's, where the $sign piece brought around $40,000 while the Shadows went unsold. He then had a forger produce copies, falsely claiming he needed them for insurance, and circulated the fakes as originals. When his father, Dr. Thomas Walsh, died in 2018, the two hadn't spoken in nearly a decade, ever since Brian, court records say, took almost $1 million from him, forcing his father to delay retirement. The will left him nothing but his best wishes. Brian contested it, claiming forgery. Family filings from that dispute describe him as prone to anger, and one friend said he'd been diagnosed as a sociopath. At a waste transfer station in Peabody, they found a hacksaw, a hatchet, torn cloth, a rug, more cleaning supplies, more blood. Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey confirmed it. Brian, already held for misleading the investigation, was now charged with his wife's murder. He pleaded not guilty. It was at a pre-trial hearing that the digital evidence became public, pulled not only from Brian's phone, but from one of his son's iPads. How long before a body starts to smell? 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. Can we throw away body parts? How long does DNA last? How to clean blood from a wooden floor. Luminol to detect blood. The next day, the 2nd, he bought 3 rugs at a Home Goods in Norwell and kept searching. Tax law and the best tool to dismember at 12:45. Whether you can be charged with murder without a body at 1:10. Whether a body can be identified from broken teeth at 1:14. And there was money in the marriage that never touched Brian's name. Since 2018, Ana had sold 4 properties worth $2.7 million combined and still held real estate. His inheritance searches sit close to that. This is not the first time Brian's name appears beside a threat against her. In 2014, while the two were still together but not yet married, Ana reported to police in Washington that he'd called and told her he was going to kill her and a friend. She declined to cooperate with the prosecution. The case was closed, and she married him the next year. The last thing she left behind isn't evidence in the forensic sense. It's a note written on top of an unopened bottle of champagne from the party that ended her old life. "Wow, 2022. What a year," she wrote, "and yet we are still here and together. Let's make 2023 the best one yet. We are the authors of our lives. Courage, love, perseverance, compassion, and joy. Love, Ana." Her 3 sons are now in the custody of the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, with several local families stepping forward to keep them together. Ana herself has not been found. What's left is a house that gave up its secrets one room at a time, a search history that reads like a confession no one meant to leave behind, and a note written 12 hours before it all fell apart, still sitting where she left it. If a case built from timestamps and receipts rather than confessions is the kind you want to follow as it develops, staying subscribed means you won't miss where this one goes.